teaching me how to throw the perfect pitch. It was the fact that you thought I could do it. Because you're not my dad, or my brother, or even my coach. You're just someone who thought I was worth investing in. And because you thought that about me, I can think that about myself.
Good morning, PV. Good morning to everybody online. It's great to see you. I want to thank Chip for filling in for me last week. It was a big deal to be able to go with family up to my family up north and help out and have a lot of fun with them. A couple announcements just for your information. There's a baptism this morning. After second service, it will be held at Tom and Melody Wise's, and we have 3 young people getting baptized. Also, this is the week of insanity here at Pleasant View for the yard sale. Just letting you know, I mean, it's here, and we're receiving things today. We have a whole mess of stuff that needs picked up from a house, 2 bedrooms, and a bunch of furniture, and I think we're aiming to do that. I'm not sure which night. It's either Monday or Tuesday night. If you have a truck, a good-sized truck, that doesn't have a topper on and can pull a trailer, please come talk to me and volunteer for help. Okay, just asking you. The yard sale is this Friday, 8 to 12, and Saturday from 8 to 4. Today's the last day to donate, and we thank everybody. They wanted me to thank everybody who has donated and all the people who are doing a great job. I mean, there's people here every day separating stuff, organizing everything. This week they're going to do a lot more of that in pricing, so it's a lot of things going on. If you can help Friday and Saturday, please go to the Welcome Center. We still need help during the yard sale. So if you can just help out. Friday's a big day. I'm looking still for people who can help park on Friday. Now, if you are interested in parking, helping me park people, and that's a big deal. We try to keep people from wrecking. That's our main function. And, and keep them calm. And so if you can help out either Friday or Saturday, come up after and meet me. They put me in charge of that, and it's like, okay, I'll do it, but we'll do it. And then do me a favor, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, if you're at work, tell everybody about it. Just tell people, hey, this is coming up, and it's really, really neat thing. So it's exciting. All the money goes to the building project. So I wanted you to know that that's what it goes for. This is week number 4 in our series, I Believe. I want to do this series because I think every now and again, we all need to hear that somebody believes in us. That in our lives, somebody's willing to pour something into us. All right? And I'll be honest, I got to this 4th part, and for weeks I've been struggling. How do I end this? What do I do with this? Now, you notice you don't have notes. That's intentional today, because I just wasn't sure how to do this. I want to bring this to a conclusion, and I want to encourage all of us to become that person of influence in somebody's life. Or if you're at a point and you need a mentor, to seek one. There's nothing like the experience that people have who've walked through similar things. So I'm going to take a verse in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. And if you have your Bibles or you have your phone Bible, you can look that up a while if you want. But I thought, how I'm here in ministry because in 1976, the church that was here in 1976, I'm talking about the people, basically said, we believe in you, and called me into ministry. My whole life I can look at how many people influenced me. Not everybody spiritually, and I'm not talking about everything spiritually. I had a baseball coach when I played 8 to 12 and 12 to 13, Charlie. And Charlie was a big man, both pretty tall and pretty stout. He was a janitor. His main job, he was a janitor at Dallastown High School. I didn't know him from that. The only thing I knew about Charlie at the time was he's my baseball coach. Now, I liked playing baseball. Baseball was fun, but my intent for playing baseball was I liked being with all the guys. It was just fun. I was a catcher. And to be very frank and honest with you, not a very good one. I didn't let balls get past me. I wasn't afraid to catch. I had been hitting the face mask with a bat every now and again because I get up close and tight. But you could steal very easily on me because I didn't have the arm. The only person I ever threw out going to second base, I hit him on the head and knocked him out. And he wasn't near the base yet. Okay? Terrible. I could hit, but I remember Charlie one time, I really got discouraged. And he just came up, and we never know the impact that we have. And he said, Jay, not everybody's good at everything. I know you're doing the best you can. Keep at it. Those little words. But it opened up, and I often think back, it was more than just, hey, hang in there. Keep doing it. He could have said that just because we didn't have anybody else to catch. Okay, it could have been that. But what he did in that young mind stayed with me forever because it means, you know what? We are not good at everything, are we? We're not. That doesn't mean we don't try things. That doesn't mean we can't have fun with things and somebody's better, somebody's worse. It's okay. We are not good at everything. And that's always stuck with me. And it's just interesting as I was thinking about this. It's just, my question as we look at this final part, my question to all of us, who are you believing in? Who in your life, in your realm of influence, are you believing in? Because the reality of it is, none of us are here by ourselves. People brought us here. You with me? In other words, if somebody says to you, I'm a self-made man, your response should be, didn't make much, did you? Because the reality of it is you fail to realize the impact that other people have had in your life. It's conceited to say, I'm a self-made person. How many people have influenced you? How many people have helped you along the way? And again, I'm not talking just spiritual. Spiritual's huge. All right? It's huge. But how many people have we encouraged, built up, who've said to them, I believe in you? What kind of legacy will you leave in people's lives? You know, there's a huge difference between inheritance and a legacy. Inheritance always has to do with stuff. What we inherit, stuff. Money, stocks, furniture, a watch. It's stuff, it's all stuff. But a legacy always has to do with people. People. Who do we influence? And that can be good or bad, Maybe we're going to leave a legacy that a lot of people wish we wouldn't have. I don't know if you ever saw this before, but if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, know that somebody else put him there. He didn't get there by himself, okay? And that's the point I'm trying to make. It's that fact that all of us have been influenced, and that influence carries on. I always tell when we're doing a premarital counseling that the husband or the future husband, future wife, you are bringing a backpack. And in that backpack is everything that you or someone else poured into your life. For ladies, you come with this mindset of what marriage is going to be. You know what I mean? Guys, we come with the mindset, what is marriage going to be? And we're basing it often on what we've seen, right? That's what we're bringing. What's been done to us. What's that? We all bring stuff to a relationship. A lot of people have put good stuff in that backpack, and we put a lot of junk in people's backpack. I want to look at some people that Jesus believed in. He believed strongly in his disciples. And most of us know stories about our disciples. But I want to look at two specifically. You may not be as familiar with them. When Jesus walked up and he saw Matthew, Matthew was a tax collector. He was a Jewish tax collector, and they were one of the most hated people ever by Jews. And the reason they were hated is because they worked for the government, the Roman government, collecting taxes for the government. And remember, this nation of Israel and Judah was under captivity. Another government, Rome, ruled over them. And then, to get paid for their services, they would gouge you. No other way to look at it. If you owed $100 in tax, you were probably going to pay $150 to $200. It was very common for them to double the tax. And as Jesus watched Matthew, I can think that at some point he said, you know what? What he's doing is really wrong. But that boy, that man, he's good at doing wrong. He's good at it. He's slick. And even in the midst of seeing him be a gouger of his own people, he asked Matthew to follow him. Matthew, come follow me. And Matthew went. What was it that Jesus saw in Matthew? What could it have been? Well, it could have been that Matthew kept two books. A book for the Roman government of what he collected and what he owed, and his books. Some businesses, this is too common of a practice, where you keep books you show your accountant and attorneys, and books where you show nobody. Matthew was a detailed person. Why would that be important? Why would Jesus say, I believe in you? You're doing wrong. This is up, but I believe in you. Because Jesus knew that the first book of the New Testament would be Matthew. And the first 18 verses in the New Testament, in the first chapter of Matthew, are some of the most, well, let me put it this way, because you'll think, Pastor shouldn't say that. They're not the most exciting verses, I'll put it that way, because it deals with, and so begat, and so begat, and they begat, and so begat, okay? But it's so detailed, it's so exact and precise that it takes you and shows you that Jesus is connected to David and beyond. And Matthew was capable to do that, and Matthew has details that none of the other Gospels have. because Jesus believed in him. He was able to do that. He was able to keep it right. Then there's another person. We know him in a certain way. There's Thomas. When we think of Thomas, what do we think of? Doubting Thomas. See, we're in 2022, right? Over 2,100 years. And we still call him Doubting Thomas. One time, Thomas stood in a room when everybody else, the world was crazy, it was upside down, and they saw Jesus crucified, they're afraid they're going to be killed, and somewhere in the midst, Thomas says, I'm not going to believe that he's raised from the dead till I see him. Right? He makes this bold statement. Forever we count him as Doubting Thomas. Forever we label him with something that he did one time in the midst of a crisis. But Jesus believed in him. Even when he came to him and said, Thomas, here I am. Do it. See, touch, put your finger in the hands, in my feet. Thrust your hand in my side. Thomas didn't have to do that. But Jesus believed in him. And do you know what Thomas did? Thomas traveled further than any other disciple. He went from Palestine to India. And there's a story in history says that Thomas was walking along the Indian Ocean and he sees a group of Hindu priests in the water. They're waist deep in the ocean and they're throwing water up. They're worshiping the sun god. The Hindus worship elements, the elements of earth. And they're throwing, and the water goes up, water comes down. And it said that Thomas just walked right out into the ocean, right in the middle with them, waist deep. And he said, you guys keep throwing water up to your God, and it keeps coming back down. It's like he don't want it. How about if I throw water up and it stays there? That my God will do that. Will you believe? And they said that Thomas, now Doubting Thomas, because every one of us are thinking, ooh, I wouldn't do that. So you're all doubters, right? Let's be honest. And it says that he put and threw the water up, and the water stayed over their heads. And they believed. In southern India, there are groups of churches known as the Thomasites because of the impact. And Thomas paid for his faith with his life. But the impact of a person we still relate to as Doubting Thomas reached a continent that was dark and without Christ until he got there. I want you to know it doesn't matter really what's going on in your life right now. You may stop believing in yourself. You may really struggle with believing in God. You may have lost faith with humanity. All you have to do is watch the news and you begin to lose your faith with humanity, right? Some of you, it's been so rough that people basically have taken, I remember in high school, you used to get threatened by, this will go on your personal file, right? Your forever file. It'll follow you all your life. Well, some of us, we've been in a situation where some people have written us off so much that they've taken our file out of the filing cabinet, they've shredded it, ripped it up, and burned what's left. That's what they think of us. Well, I want you to know something. Jesus never does that. Never. Jesus believes in you. And you and I can be the feet, the hands, the mouth of Jesus every day when we tell someone, you know what? I believe in you. I believe you can overcome. I believe you can get out of this addiction. I believe you can turn your life around. I believe you have the ability to do far more than you ever imagined that you can do. Paul writes to the Corinthian church, 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 10. Beautiful verse. According to the grace of God, which was given to me. It was given to me too. Are you a Christian? Have you accepted Jesus Christ? It was given to you. According to the grace of God, which was given to me, like a wise master builder, I laid a foundation. And another is building on it. But each person must be careful how they build on it. Now, you need to understand what Paul's talking about. He's talking about this very thing of influence, mentoring, being that voice for Christ, that other voice that we talked about in the second message in this series. That outside voice that backs up what parents say. We're building. We're building on what others have laid a foundation. And he says we need to be wise. I want to look at the three things he says. He says, I'm a wise master builder. Everyone in this room is a master builder. You are. You're a master builder. You, whether you realize it or not, you are building something. How many in here have children? You have children? I guarantee you are building something. All right? You are building something. How many of you have grandchildren? Grandma and grandpa? You're building something. In another generation, you're building something. How many of you work with other people? You're building something. In the relationship, in the people you come in contact with, you are building something. Are you a wise master builder or just a master builder? Second, we have to realize that somebody laid a foundation. Somebody else laid a foundation. Paul says, I've laid a foundation. But he also says, you know what? Somebody else is going to come along when I'm gone. And they're going to build on that foundation. Was the foundation good and strong? Will it be able to take what's built upon it? Because sometimes there's junk put on it. Did we build a good foundation? And the third thing is we need to build carefully. We need to seriously look at how our relationships are, how we are influencing those we're called to influence. As I said, not one of us have come to where we are on our own. Whether it's at where we work, going to school, what we're doing. Not one of us have gotten here on our own. And I don't care if you're, like I said, if you're going through some things where people are just doubting you or whatever, I want you to know, without a doubt, Jesus believes in you. Jesus believes in me. I think as we bring this series to a close, I think there's something that would help us to realize how important it is. I think it's 2 steps we can do. The first is to look at our lives in the past. I told you about Charlie. I can't go back and tell Charlie, thank you. Something he probably wouldn't even remember telling me. I was probably about 10, 11 when he told me that. But Charlie's going home with the Lord. But there are people in your lives, my life, who are still alive. Have we ever said, thank you? Have we ever told someone, I appreciate what you did in my life? It mattered. And I think it's important when we recognize what somebody else built in our life that we say thank you. Write a note. Give a thanks. In fact, some of you I talked to in the first group, I want you to come up. I've got some people going to talk on a personal level this morning. You guys come up. We're going to hear some stories. Tom will take care of the mic. I just mess him up. So what I've asked everybody but Phil, poor Phil came to me and said, can I be first? I'm so nervous and worked up. And I said, Phil, you're last. So just say a prayer for Phil, and I understand it. You're not used to being up here in summer. I'm nervous. But I appreciate the willingness to come up and talk. And the first group is going to talk about people that influenced their life. All right? Tom?
Yeah, I was told to keep it quick, so I will. I've had trouble thinking about this all week because I think if I had to say who it was, it'd be the Holy Spirit, because it's been a constant, relentless pursuit of my life. I mean, there's some of you can probably relate with some of these stories. I remember specifically, I gave my life to Christ when I was really, really young, and when I went through high school, I went through your normal high school issues and probably wandering further away than I should have from God. And I remember going to college that first day and thinking, yes, I'm away from my parents. This is going to be awesome. Even though they never made me go to church, they were really, really good about that. It always felt like they had me sucked in, like I had to go to church. And I remember, I think it was the first day or second day or third day, and there's a knock on my door in my dormitory, and it's two guys that want to have a Bible study in my room. I was like, get out of here. I can't even get away from God at college. So those are the things that just get to me. It's like, God is not going to let me go, even though I tried sometimes. But the one that hit me, I think the most, because I was thinking about a person, but it was definitely the pursuit of the Holy Spirit. My wife and I dated for 7 years before we got married, something like that. And we were back and forth between here and my home church at that time was St. Paul's. And we didn't know what we were going to do, so we just did what normal couples do, just back and forth, and didn't even think about it. And of course, the close the wedding date got, we kind of knew we should make a decision, but we didn't want to make one. So we just kind of skirted the issue and kept going back and forth. And it was one Sunday morning, someone came up behind us. He's no longer here. He's here. He's just not with us. He's serving in the world. It's Pat Myers. And put in Pat Myers' head. He knew, without ever talking to us, he came up behind us. He said, "You're struggling, aren't you?" And I said, "With what?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're struggling with where you guys are going to end up on your feet." Because in hindsight, all these years later, it's great to commit and use the gifts that God has given you where you are. I mean, that's what, I think he knew that. He didn't say it, but it was like, you can't go back and forth. You just can't keep going to wherever you're going to go. Go and commit yourself. Use God's gifts to serve wherever he has you called. It doesn't mean it was here. He never, ever said that. He just said, you guys he said, pray about this. He said, really pray about this because you should make a decision. And that mentor thing, I mean, it was one of those things that was kind of trembling because, he knew that I was dealing with that, and Melody was dealing with it too. So that was the one that hit me. So.
Yeah, Helen, you can go back, Tom, if you want to run the board. He's got to stay on the board. Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Helen.
When I think of people that have made an impression, I can't think of anyone who's made a bigger impression in my life than my parents. And I think most of you probably, who were fortunate enough to be reared in a Christian home, would agree to that. So I really think of my folks, and like Jay said, I wish we were able to tell them, and we forget. Mm-hmm. But also, my folks were not huggy, kissy type, but the more I think how their actions spoke louder than words. because I know that they were the influence in my life. And I particularly think of 1929. Now, I know most of you people, that was a long time ago. It was the worst of times, but it was the best of times, because that was the year I was born. But it was also the beginning of the Great Depression. So I'm sure my folks would have a different story than what I have. But I happened to have a sister 2 years later, and we grew up. It was the best of times for us. We had a childhood worry-free, carefree, because we had a mother and a dad. We knew they'd take care of us. So we didn't have a care in the world. Even though there was a move almost at least every year, the first 8 years of our lives, because of employment. Hey, times were tough. You think times are tough now? It really was. Those of us that grew up in the Depression. But even with all these moves, we hardly noticed it. We hardly noticed that we had 2 brothers in the meantime, because we were so busy. We found a playhouse in every move that we made. It was great. So it was really a great life. But I think of the fact that our folks kept on. They kept on keeping on. We never heard any whining. I'm sure they kept that hidden from these carefree kids that were having such fun. But I think actions do speak louder than words. And our folks, that did mean so much to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Peggy.
I'll let you hold it.
All right. All right.
I don't even know where to begin. Unlike Helen, I didn't have the parents that were loving and Christian, but I had a grandmother. And to this day, she's with me every day, even though she left this earth about 35 years ago. But she was always there for me. She was the one person, and I think it hit me whenever Jay sent me the message, and he says, who was the one person in your life that you go back to that said, you can do it, anything that you want to do? And she was the one person. And I can remember walking into a room from the time, she was always there, ever since I can remember. But I'd walk into a room, she'd have her Bible on her lap. She'd be reading from her Bible. Sometimes her eyes would be closed and she'd be praying. And I'd go up to her and she'd gladly share with me what she was reading. Our stories, a lot of them were from the Bible. And it's not like today when the kids hear the video stories and they go on their electronics. It was then I was fascinated with the stories that she told, true stories from the Bible, about Daniel in the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you know. It was, and I remember these things, and I try to pass them on to my children and my grandchildren. I guess the only thing I want to say, there is so much about her. She's the reason I'm here today, and I know it. Where none of us are perfect. When we make turns along the way, and some of them are not the right moves, but we always come back to our roots and what we were taught. At least I did. And the things that were ingrained in me when I was little, the only thing I want to say to all you parents and grandparents out there today is they're never too young. Teach them, even when you think that they're not listening, they hear you. And they understand more than you know or more than you realize. But you can never love them too much. And I know a lot of times the parents might say, well, they're too young for that. They don't understand. like I said, you'll be surprised at what they do understand. And it will stay with them, just like it has with me over the years. But like I said, she's the one person that made the difference in my life.
Praise the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, I should have told you everybody's name. Tom Wise was first, Helen Myers, Peggy, now Mike.
Morning, everyone. I'd like to start out with, well, first, the people that influence most, I think, often are our parents, like we've heard, and teachers. So I just want to tell 2 quick stories about that. My father, your father always influences you, and many things he has done over the years I see myself doing with my own children. But one time in particular, I was just finishing middle school. My grades were never that great. I think I just kind of showed up to class and got C's. And he pulled me aside one day and he's like, you have 4 years to make it right now. You got to put in a little more effort to school. Kind of got that school speech. So I think second marking period rolled around and I really wanted to try to get honor roll. And I had all B's and a C. And I went to my one teacher and begged her, hey, can you bump that one B to an A and that'll like balance out the C? So I got honor roll for the first time and I was like, wow, this feels good. So from that point forward, I strived really diligently to get good grades and I graduated Millersville with a magna cum laude status. So and I just relate that to the speech that my dad gave me. So parents, just keep giving your kids speeches even if you think they're not listening. Next story, kind of go back into my high school years. Every young adult struggles with, what are you going to do one day? Because a lot of people look at me, they're like, Mike, you're a country boy, you hunt and fish, why are you a Spanish teacher? And I'm like, well, one day I was hanging out with my Spanish teacher who was also my wrestling coach. And I was like, Mr. Fisher, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to go to college for. My dad's in construction, his body's falling apart. I don't really want to do that. And he's like, why don't you just go be a Spanish teacher? You like Spanish, and then you can be a wrestling coach. I was like, okay, great, sounds good. So here I am 16 years later, still a Spanish teacher.
And a good coach.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know if I wanted to share this, just one more point. I've been sitting under Pastor Jay for 16 years, and I think it would be good to give him a little credit for how he's influenced my life. So, I don't know, a couple years ago, he was preaching about something, and I think he got a little sidetracked, which doesn't happen too often. But he says, don't just clean the dishes, make sure you dry them and put them away. And to this day, I can never just clean the dishes and just leave them in the drying room. So, thank you, Pastor. You've made my wife happy. So.
Anything to help. Thank you, Mike. You hold that. Don't talk yet. Just wait. I want to introduce the second part. I told you we had 2 things to do. The opportunity to say thank you to somebody that influenced or people who influenced our life. The second thing, I want you to pray something. Pray something when you have some in your time, in your closet, and ask God, who should I discover? Who should I discover? Who can I believe in? There's 3 things that we should do when we are influencing or mentoring someone. We need to believe in them. We need to develop them. And then we need to deploy them. Launch them. That's what we do with our children, don't we? Shouldn't we believe in our children? Aren't we developing our children? And one day, and I know this scares some of you with little ones, you will launch them. You will deploy them upon the world. Who do I need to believe in? I asked Phil because I knew Phil was doing something and it's mentoring, and he may not realize it's mentoring. I'm not sure he did. But I wanted him to tell you this just what he's doing. And it's not a pat on the back, it's reality. It's real. So none of us can ever say, I don't know, I'm not equipped. Yes, you are. You are specially equipped to do this. You are unique. Phil, tell them a little bit about your story.
Okay, so unlike, I think her name was Peggy, I'm going to hold the mic, but Jay has another job to catch me if I fall.
Don't lock the knees. Relax.
So, some of you may know I have 5 grandchildren. The oldest is Mariah. She helps in Kids Zone. And sometimes in life we don't realize the struggles and problems that everybody else is having, because it doesn't affect you directly. Through word of mouth, I found out that in school, there's a lot of pressure and stuff on kids, and Mariah was hearing, it's okay to do this, it's okay to be this way, and she was starting to struggle with it, and second guessing who she was, and maybe this is the right thing to do. And that didn't sit really well with me, obviously, and so I asked her mother, Amy, if I could try to make Mariah see through God's word that this is not okay. So she was struggling with something, which I won't mention what it was. I came to Jay about it and asked Jay for guidance where I could start in the Bible to find this, where God talks about this, and he directed me to Leviticus. And that was actually the first chapter that we started with, and Mariah and I now do a Bible study together. It's been on for about 6 months, and we've continued this, but I got to the part in Leviticus where God talks about the issue that Mariah was having. So I stopped there and I said, do you understand, Mariah, what God's telling us here? And she did. And I said, do you see why it's not okay to do this? And you need to, like Jay tells us all the time, put your armor on, put your shield on, and be ready for these things that attack you in life and resist them. And we had a little conversation about it, and then I asked her again if she wanted to continue with the Bible study, and she said yes. And so we are now currently, reading about John. We're going through the book of John, and the topic does come up once in a while, and I'm very proud to say through God's words, through me, she has overcome that issue. Need some notes here. So, and here's kind of why I wanted to continue with the study with Mariah. I was going to end it with Leviticus, but before I asked her if she wanted to continue, I prayed about it to see if God, this is where he wanted me and what he wanted me to do. So I have a little part I want to read to you, then I'll have a verse in the Bible on why I still do this. And it says, I found that it says, the concept of mentoring is at least as old as the book of Deuteronomy in the Old Testament. In Deuteronomy 6:4-6, God provided a biblical format of mentoring within the family to ensure that the faith in the one true and living God would be passed from generation to generation. So Deuteronomy 6:4-6 says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk them when you are sitting at home and when you're walking along the road, when you wake up or when you lie down." So I came across this, and I wasn't sure, again, if I wanted to continue it, but then I opened up my Bible and was just kind of looking through, and that jumped out at me. And I took it as God was telling me, don't stop here, continue with your granddaughter. And now I find myself in a situation where I'm actually starting one with my grandson, Aiden, and now my prayer turned to, okay, God, please give me the strength to do 5 of these all at one time so I can find the time and to do this. So I'm just very blessed that God was with me through all this and to help my granddaughter through all these little struggles that she's having at school. So I just thank every day that I have with her.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that yours? Yep. And that's Phil. And I appreciate their willingness and nervousness to come up. So listen, the reality is it's not as hard as we think. We can do this. all of us. You don't have to be Billy Graham. You don't have to be trained. You have lived. You have learned. You have experiences. And we can share that. We can make a difference in someone's lives. Yes, we can do it with our children, our grandchildren, but we can also speak into other people's lives. We can be that encouragement and the strength that somebody needs. There's some of you in here, and I can point them out, that you are encouragers, just built for it. God's gifted you for it. Others, we think, well, I'm not that important. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. We influence all the time, either for God, for good, or for evil. It's time to constantly choose the good. If you've been through something, you have an addiction, you know what? You can help somebody who's struggling in addiction. You understand that better than people who don't. Some of you have been married a long time. You might offer to a young couple that you believe in them. You believe God's going to bless that marriage and they're going to be something else. And you can speak into their lives because you've got experience. You have insight. I want you to do something for me today. Sometime today. Try to find about 4 people and just tell them you believe in them.